So I've been quite interested for a few days in, well, hyper-focusing, I think you call it, on, on a story that I found out about Brompton Cemetery. So Brompton Cemetery is in London, and inside there's I think they call them mausoleums, which is rich people used to be buried in these sort of box things back in the Victorian times. And one of them looks very much like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. And I'm wondering whether that's where they got their inspiration from the TARDIS for Doctor Who, from this story. I don't know. But anyway, there was a lady called Hannah Courtoy. There's two stories. She was either a maid who had three illegitimate children with a much older, wealthy man, which used to go on a lot in those days. Or she was already wealthy, socialite kind of person, sorry. And anyway, this Hannah Courtoy, she had a fascination with Egypt and the pharaohs and the hieroglyphics and the ancient knowledge from there. And anyway, she'd always had this obsession. But anyway, when John Courtoy died, he left his fortune to her, but I think his real name was Nicholas, I want to say, but I can't be totally sure, and that he was actually French. So there lies something strange already, that he changed his name. I really don't know why that was the case, but anyway, so she ended up with this massive fortune, and she was friends with a guy called Joe Bonhomme. That was his name, something like that. Joe Bonhomme, he was like, you know, quite a well-known Egyptologist of the time. So she was friends with this Joe Bonhomme, and they met this guy called Samuel Warner, who was an inventor. Now, Samuel Warner was telling them that he could invent, like, you know, a time machine obviously from the stuff that they'd found out. And so, allegedly, this mausoleum that Hannah Courtoy is buried in with her two illegitimate daughters, the third one, I think her name was Susanna, actually got married to quite a wealthy man, but the two unmarried ones are buried in this mausoleum in Brompton Cemetery. Now, the story goes that Samuel Warner disappeared, the inventor. Now, some people say that Joe Bonhomme killed him because he didn't want, you know, him to tell the story, to let everyone know how they had invented this time machine. And other people say that he actually used a time machine and is probably travelling around somewhere in ancient Egypt. He's now, you know, or somewhere else even. But the other thing that's really strange about this situation is that they can't find the key. They can't find the key to the mausoleum. It's been lost for quite a few years, probably about half a century. They haven't been able to find this key, probably longer. Probably 2 centuries. Anyway, and also the plans. Now, most of these mausoleums that are in Brompton Cemetery and all these old cemeteries, obviously they're really rich people. They have plans with them, and so they can't find the plan. They can't find the key. And, you know, there's a mystery with Samuel Warner as well. Did he die? Was he murdered? Or is he travelling around, time travelling somewhere? You know, or is it just a nice fancy story? I don't know, but it is really quite fascinating. And the other thing is that's quite fascinating, there was apparently Hannah Courtoy also had connections with the royal family. She you know, she was like a socialite, you know, in sort of the royal parties, I suppose, of the time. So she was well known, you know. So yeah, it is very interesting. I haven't actually been to the cemetery myself, but I must take a visit because it is really fascinating story. I mean, are there time machines? I don't know, but I mean the TARDIS in the Doctor Who, you know, that was a time machine. Then you've got like Back to the Future, you know, they had a time machine. It would be great if you could get a time machine, if it was possible, one could be invented, because to be quite honest with you, I think I might even jump in it and go somewhere else, because I'm not particularly in love with 2025. You know, it's not the nicest time to be alive. Interesting, yes, but you know, there's an awful lot of, you know, problems and stuff. But yeah, no, anyway, but I just thought it was a really fascinating story, and Yeah, and it would be so cool. All my life, I've always wanted to time travel. That's one of my, things that I'm really fascinating with. That, wouldn't it be great if you could just get in there and go back, to, I don't know, 200 years ago or something like that, or 50 years ago, or even visit your younger self. It would just be amazing. So anyway, that's that for me. That's my little interesting story for today. And have a great day. The sun's out. Enjoy.